Chapter 1. What is the main reason for terrorism? Everyone has their own answers, right? The college farewell parties are something that is carved deep inside the brain and is something that most people keep very near to their heart. But what if someone asks you that what will you do if you find yourself enjoying the farewell party with your friends and teachers? Then some terrorist suddenly jumped in and made you all their hostages. Whenever this type of question was asked to Steve, he would answer it quite accurately. Steve belonged to a village where suddenly terrorist attacks used to happen, and they had to starve and live in terror every time. As long as he remembered his elder brother and mother had taken care of him, Steve was a bit of a mature kind of person, but he had his problems as well. When he was young, his father fought some terrorists and died while trying to help them escape from the village, and from that day they lived away from the village. Steve's elder brother was working alone for the family. Steve would often help the family by working part-time. Their life was going good, but they very rarely smiled. Steve would often show that he was happy at his college and show that he is having fun as well, but he was never feeling happy from his heart. For someone who had seen people suffer, starve, and been killed in front of his own eyes, when he was in the age of playing from toys, he was struggling to be alive, so there was very less chances that he would be happy from heart anytime soon. When his mother asked that, "Why does he show that he is happy when he is not?" He said that my problems are mine alone. I don't need someone's sympathy and show of fake care, and I just don't want to show anyone what I had gone through because I just don't care anymore. It is what it is. After hearing this, Steve's mother said that you are right. Live as you like. But don't be rough on yourself. His elder brother was a good man, and he was also master at self-defense. He taught Steve every day. Except these things, he was able to get through his law college, and he was about to start his life as an advocate. Reason why he chose being an advocate was that he wanted to help the people under terrorism, and he also wanted people to fight for what they truly deserve. Before some days of their graduation, they had a farewell party for all the future advocate, and almost all of them attended it as well. Most were against having their farewell somewhere away, so they had their farewell party at the college in presence of their lecturers and all the graduating students. Steve also joined them, and they started to dance, sing, and play around. Some were strolling around the campus for the last time and were mostly enjoying the party. After partying for some time, a lecturer who was just appointed to the college newly called all the students and teachers to welcome a guest to their farewell party. It was the government minister who was in charge of the whole state, including the village of Steve and many more villages as well. After his arrival, everyone was very happy and started to give all the attention towards him. But Steve was the only one who was not so happy, because he always wanted to ask the government official about his village and always wanted to ask many questions like, why doesn't he do anything? While the party was going on, some people came in vans. Everyone thought that maybe some other people were also invited, but when they turned towards their lecturers, they were also shocked about who these people were. The vans came and stopped at their college entrance, and some people came barging inside. No one was able to understand what was going, and when some people of the minister went and asked them who they were, those strange people started to shoot them. That's when all of them realized that they were under attack, and the strange people were actually terrorists. The next thing they all knew was that the minister's guards and the terrorists were shooting, and all the students and lecturers were hiding somewhere. But when they tried to go outside from the room where they all were present at, more terrorists came from outside, and they stopped them from getting out. In the end, there was no one who could get out of the room. The shootout was coming to an end because the guards didn't have that much of bullets and inventory as much as the terrorists, because they were ready and had all the plans of what they had to do. When the guards ran out of bullets, the terrorists came from their back and killed them, except the minister. Then the terrorists took all the people as their hostage and started to divide the students and lecturers, then took them to different classes. They started to put them all to a corner and started threatening to kill them. Meanwhile, a person who seemed as their head called someone and started to talk in the phone. Steve was the only one among all of them who was not scared. He starred them with intense look, as if he would kill all of them. One of the terrorists saw that, said to Steve that he should stop looking like that, and he should try to stay quiet rather than trying to do something that could harm others' life and yourself. Steve was not shocked of all the shooting and blood. Steve was waiting for an opening or any chance to take the weapon of any one of the terrorists so that he could take down all of them with the help of the training that his brother had gave him. But until they were taken to different rooms, he didn't get any chance to take their weapon and use it against them. After reaching the rooms, all the terrorists started to talk with some code language to each other. And then, in every room, one of the students or lecturer were taken as hostage, and to set an example, they said that if any of you makes a move, then you are dead and shot towards the ceiling. Each and everyone was so shocked that they couldn't utter a word except Steve. He was only thinking of a way to get to the terrorist. Then suddenly, the person who was held as an example started to cry. Chapter 2. When the person stopped crying, he became unconscious. Steve said that rather than threatening the weak, unconscious man to kill him, why don't you exchange that place with me? The terrorist said that I don't think that you have a good thought, and I don't think that someone would try to sacrifice his own life for saving someone else like this. Steve said that what can I do to a trained terrorist? I am just a normal civilian. The terrorist thought about it for a while and said that even if I kill this sleeping man, they will not fear, but if I get that boy who is showing off a lot, then maybe all of them would stay quiet. Steve went near him, and the unconscious person was thrown towards the remaining students when the terrorist was going to put Steve down and point the gun towards him. Steve took the opportunity and took the gun from the terrorist and shot him on leg and hit him in the head that made the terrorist unconscious, and the moment the gun sound came, some terrorist ran inside the room and Steve took them all down at once very quickly and tied them all. Steve said every one of the students to stay inside the room and watch over the terrorist, and in the meantime he will take care of the terrorist, one of the students said. They should call for help. Steve didn't react and went outside the room being very cautious. The student took out his phone to call the police for help, but there was no signal. Steve knew that they would have placed a jammer, and when he went to a corner, he noticed that the cameras were working. He thought that they are watching over them, and they had probably taken over the office room. Steve had left a single handgun in the class and took all the weaponry and some kits as well. He thought that the office is far from where they were at present, so there is no way they would have heard the sound of the gunshots, and he had checked all the terrorists' talking devices. They were oft by their side as well. When he thought of blowing up the cameras, he thought that shutting the cameras would make them alert and try to find a new way. In the meantime, he saw that they also had a silencer at the spot he attached it, and when he was doing this, some terrorists saw him and tried to get to him. He instantly shot them on the arms and legs. Then he tied them without letting their boss know anything, but the device through which they were talking was on, and their boss called them to ask what was going on. Steve understood that he couldn't do anything, so he started to talk with the head with the code language. Steve had understood the code language because, surprisingly, the code language from which they were talking with was very familiar to the code language that Steve and his brother used to talk. When the head heard the voice of Steve, he suddenly said Steve's name. Hearing this, Steve instantly understood who the boss was, and when he said brother to clarify it, the boss of the terrorist said, "What are you doing here?" Steve understood that the boss was none other than his brother. When he started to plan a way to the office, the terrorists were behind Steve, and all of them came to hold Steve down, but couldn't. When Steve clearly saw who they were behind the mask while fighting, he noticed that he knew each and every one of them because they were the villagers from Steve's village. After fighting and taking down all the terrorists, Steve got shot as well, but he didn't stop, and after taking care of all the terrorists, he came to his brother. Then he asked to his brother, standing right in front of him, that why did he do all of this, and what was the reason for his sweet and caring brother to turn so rough. And after that, his brother didn't say much, but said that if you want to know why I did all this, just go and say to Mom that I said her to tell everything. After hearing this, Steve was so confused that he couldn't do anything, and while he saw the minister, he said to his brother, "It's okay, I understand, I will ask Mum, but why are you doing this and said that we were always under terrorist attacks, and we both know how much of a problem they cause. So why did you do this? Just why?" To this his brother said that I know you have much you want to ask, but can you hand over the gun to me, please? Steve went near to his brother and saw that in the office room the cameras were on and the TV was on as well. In the TV, they were reporting that the terrorist had taken over the law college of the city, and the minister is under their control and had said that if their demands is not done under 24 hours, then they would kill all the students and lecturers with the minister. When Steve heard this, he instinctively shot towards his brother, and his brother fell. And when he noticed in the TV when he was passing out because of the injuries and fights he had, the reporter said that the demands of the terrorists were approved. Steve said, "No," and gone unconscious. After some time, when he opened his eyes, he found himself in the hospital. The cops came charging in and saw everything. They saved the minister, and Steve was taken to the hospital with the other terrorists. After some time, all the students and lecturers were saved, and everything resolved. Steve was known as the young advocate hero. The next day, Steve met his mother. She said to Steve that he had done a great job, and Steve was about to tell her about his brother with tears in eyes, and then suddenly she slapped Steve. Her mother said to Steve that his brother is not dead, and the cops are investigating him, as the bullet luckily didn't enter to his heart and was shot on the shoulder that made his left hand useless. Steve said that I am relieved that his all right. His mother said, "Oh, really? Why would you be happy now after trying to kill your own villagers and your own brother?" Steve got angry on his mother and said, "What do you think I should have did when they were trying to gain something from the path that they hated the most?" "Ha! My father died for the same reason, and you are saying that I should have supported him." His mother said, "Maybe I should have said you from the very beginning." Chapter 3. At the same moment, Steve heard the news which said for what the terrorist asked on the name of the demands, the terrorist said that they want all the sufficient needs to reach the small villages of the state, like water supply, roads, each and every support that the government should give to them, and said that for now, the government should start from withdrawing the real terrorists or the police support from the villages who just take away the very small amount of things that we have and then kill us. At the same moment, Steve remembered something that he always ignored and realized that the people who were labeled as the terrorist, who always attacked the village, were actually wearing the uniform of police, and that the cops were the ones who killed his father. He came to his senses and understood why the people of his village and his brother, who hated the name of the terrorist, became one of them, when he realized his mistake and said that brother said that he asked you to say everything to me. "He meant this, huh?" his mother asked. "Did he said you tell me?" Steve said, "Yes. He said that when you reach home, ask Mum to say everything. She will explain everything." Steve's mother said that, "Okay then, if your brother thinks that you are ready to hear the truth, then I will say everything. The minister you saved was not always on such heights. When he was just a member who was trying to become a politician, he once came to our village, and that time your father was a police officer, and he was the head of the station as well. When the minister saw that your father had all the village under his control, that minister tried to take your father under his own control so that he could get the village under his control, and in sight of getting rid of the constant terrorism from the village, your father became one of his men. The villagers thought that if your father is supporting him, then he should be able to help them, and supported him. The minister was actually plotting something else. After some years of friendship, when the village started to trust the minister more, he thought of getting rid of our village and started a commotion between the terrorists and our villagers, saying that he is by our side and he would help us. But when the fight started, the terrorists came more stronger and started to kill many of our villagers. And when we thought that the minister would help us, but the terrorists who were attacking us from decades were actually the minister's men. After saying all this, his mother went away, and Steve was left with a loss of words. He hated himself for doing all the things that he did, and for being an immature who didn't know anything. The day when the case was going to get to the court was approaching near. He said to his mother that whatever the minister did was to get to achieve his goals, and that he will go under the minister. Steve was sure that when he will try to work under the minister, he would surely give him some work because he saved his life after all. After hearing this, Steve's mother was angry and said, "If you want to go, then I won't stop you, but never try to come back. You have lost your home and your mother." Steve went to work with the minister, and he also accepted Steve. The day when Steve's brother was about to get his sentence, Steve interrupted and said that the person who you all are thinking is guilty doesn't even has a lawyer with him. "Can I be his lawyer with permission of my lord?" The judge accepted and gave a chance to Steve, and that was Steve's first case. After that, Steve said that the terrorist is not something that this young man should be called my lord. He should have been called the true hero, who works behind the curtains. The actual terrorist is the minister who they kept as the hostage, and I can prove that. He showed a video of the minister and Steve talking about how the minister came to this level by killing a lot of peoples, and how to get money. He turned a whole village of people to a factory of grave. Steve was able to get the sentence of his brother turned towards the right decision, and the case of the minister went to the Supreme Court. The minister was taken off of his authorities, and when he was going to prison, Steve came to talk to him and said that you checked whether what I was saying was true or not, but you forgot to check whether I was really trustworthy or not. Just by seeing a person's face, you cannot say whether he is a friend or foe. I learned it from you and left. Now, Steve and his family is living happily with a true smile on their face.
No one wants to be a person who everyone hates. If they become one, either they are being forced to, or they have no choice. Fighting and killing someone like terrorists is not a choice until you have no choice left. Not every person who looks like a friend is one, and not every person who looks like a foe is one until you don't try it. You never know.